Hello and welcome to Africa Today. I am Esther Mokwariola. Home to more than 1 billion people with 6 of the fastest growing economies in the world, Africa is largely a mixed bag of the good, the bad and the uncertain, readily making it a place worth talking about and worth reaching to. Talking about reaching out, British Prime Minister Theresa May is on a tour of 3 African nations, making her the first British leader to visit South Africa since David Cameron in 2011 and the first to visit Nigeria and Kenya since Margaret Thatcher 30 years ago. And so we ask, what are your thoughts on Theresa May's visit amidst Brexit and what's in it for Africa? You can join the conversation and share your thoughts with us on Twitter at TVC News NG. We take a report and Africa Today will continue. Welcome on board.
British Prime Minister Theresa May was greeted with an official welcome ceremony at Abuja Airport on Wednesday. As she arrived in Nigeria on the second leg of a trip to Africa aimed at pushing trade ties. May met with Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari at the presidential villa in Abuja during a one-day visit to the former British colony.
We have long-standing links with Nigeria and long-standing close commercial ties with Nigeria. There are British companies that have been here in Nigeria for many, many years. We want to enhance those trading links. I think there are real opportunities for us to do so as we're leaving the European Union. That's one of the things I've been discussing here in Nigeria today.
The two leaders discussed the strengthening of commercial and trade ties before May traveled to Nigeria's commercial hub, Lagos, where she will meet victims of modern slavery.
I think it's important that we in Nigeria have shared security threats that we need to cooperate on and working against, be that issues like Boko Haram or indeed human trafficking. But we recognise the issue of human rights. I have raised that today with the President here in Nigeria. He has set up a committee of inquiry to look into these issues and I welcome that.
Britain's government has held up the prospect of increased trade with non-European Union countries as one of the major selling points of Brexit, as it prepares to leave the bloc, currently its biggest trading partner, in March next year. The British leader will round off a trip to the continent in Kenya, another Commonwealth country, and meet with President Uhuru Kenyatta before returning home on Thursday.
Welcome back. Before we get into the discussion of the day, let's update you on some of the top news stories around Africa. Reports say all 6 candidates who have been barred from running in DRC's presidential elections later this year have lodged appeals at the Constitutional Court. A Kenyan military spokesperson says 5 Kenyan soldiers have been killed when a roadside bomb blew up the vehicle they were traveling in the country's southeast. Britain have signed a £20 million trade and investment agreement with Ghana to create jobs and promote economic development, and that's according to the statement released by the presidency. Now, joining me to look at Theresa May's visit to Africa, I have Adeniyi Kunnu, a researcher and a policy analyst. And on Skype, I have Otunba Olabode Osenie, political analyst and media consultant. Good to have you gentlemen on the program.
Thank you very much for having me.
Let me begin with you now, Adeniyi.
Yes, please.
First off, what are your thoughts on May's mission to woo Africa after Brexit?
I think it's to save face, to save Britain, and to, of course, consolidate the same bilateral relationship it has at the moment, and that it will definitely have post-Brexit. If you look at it, for the past 30 years, no British leader has deemed it fit to visit Nigeria. Let me not talk about Kenya. Let me concern myself with my motherland. The last time a British leader visited a country here was in 2011, David Cameron, that's in South Africa. By implication, up until now that we have Theresa May, it appears to them that they are superior to us in terms of trade. That may be true by virtue of the infrastructure they have, by virtue of the strength and technology, but the point remains that the policy of association that the British people actually initiated during the colonial era days still continues up until this moment. I think strongly that in the 21st century, policies, especially as it concerns bilateral interactions, must evolve, which the British government has failed to do over the years. But now let's look at how the hen has come home to roost, because the relationship between Nigeria and Britain will continue as long as the world stands. A number of things will happen. They're talking about the economy, they're talking about defense, they're talking about, security. Those are positives. But let me tell you this again. If we check the charts, if you look at the relationship bilaterally and trade-wise particularly, you'd find that the European Union stands atop every other person, followed by China, followed by the United States of America, and of course, and the EU. So Britain actually happens to be the fourth when you talk about the ladder of economic relationship with Nigeria.
Right.
So whilst many people who perhaps do not understand the economic and political antecedents of Britain and Nigeria up until this moment may say, we are very grateful that they'll give us 10.7 million pounds, obviously to support those who have been in forced labor, then another millions of pounds to support in terms of insecurity. Then of course they intend to surpass the United States of America by the year 2022.
Yeah.
The point remains that what indeed would be the advantage of the country? In the past 5 years, the importation of Nigeria's crude by Britain has reduced by 69%. If you're talking about the importation of commodity and other things, it has reduced by well over 30%. So when you talk about trade relationship, Nigeria stands at a disadvantage. So whilst certain things could happen that are positive, which of course would include the fact that between 2015 and now, the British government has trained 30,000 Nigerian soldiers, and from the pact recently signed, it will have the opportunity to train an entire military division, maybe the 81 Division or the 81 Battalion or the rest of it. Those are positives. Now, what are we expected to do as a country? Between now and 2019, when Britain will definitely leave the European Union, which of course she's still reeling in the pains of, how are we to at least help juggle our areas where we are lagging behind, so that at least when the opportunity comes for trade and investment, it won't be about us still paying in hard currencies, not local currencies, and even if we paid in hard currencies, how much of foreign currencies or foreign earnings could we have in our coffers?
Right.
So these are the considerations that are very, very important. But moving forward again would be the deliberate attempts by the leadership of the country. Obviously, there are certain positives that the government has done, because if you look at it, if a particular prime minister didn't visit the country in 30 years, and this one decides, I think I should give kudos to the foreign ministry of the Nigerian government. I should also give kudos to the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari, because obviously when they deal with you, they want to see a measure of sincerity. And if you even look at it, so one would have expected or thought that the administration of Olusegun Obasanjo, that saw the birthing of majority of the anti-corruption institutions in the country, would have actually enabled the British government to have the Prime Minister visit the country. So let us say it's a positive for this government to have been able to enable a visit into the country, but much more work needs to be done, because indeed our visitation now opens the way for more work.
Right, now let's quickly go on a very quick break. You're watching Africa Today, and we've been looking at Theresa May's visit amidst Brexit and what's in it for Africa. Welcome back. In June, the Brookings Institute named Nigeria the poverty capital of the world, overtaking India. Barely 2 months later, Theresa May visits with a reminder that 87 million Nigerians live below $2 a day, and perhaps she also needs to be reminded that millions of dollars stolen by corrupt Nigerians remain stashed away in British banks. Well, we have our correspondent, Theophilus Ilama, who joins us now live from Murtala Mohammed Airport in Lagos to bring us up to speed on the visit of the British Prime Minister. Theo, tell us what's happening right now.
Esther Mokwariela, good evening. We're still at the international airport, the presidential wing, At this time, we are waiting for the British Prime Minister Theresa May to come and speak with the media. Now, from what I gathered here, she had to speak with the business community in Lagos to show that Britain is ready to do business. Of course, it's post-Brexit, it's in preparation for their exit from the European Union and all, Brexit and all. So she's here in Nigeria to speak with the business community to let them know that Britain is ready for business and England is ready for business. So we're expecting her to come in any moment from now. Already the governor of Lagos State is here inside the presidential wing waiting for her to come. So once she comes, we know that we're going to have an interview with her, and she's going to tell us her impression of Lagos and what Britain is going to do for Nigeria.
Right, before now, we know that she visited the victims of modern-day slavery in Badagry. Could you tell us, or could you have a feel of what really went down there?
Well, we didn't have the opportunity to follow her to visit victims of modern-day slavery, quite all right. But from what we heard from some sources here that she actually had a good time visiting those people and made some promises. But we know categorically that she had she spent a lot of time with the business community here in Lagos to prepare them for what is coming and to assure them that Britain is ready to do business with the rest of the world.
All right, Theo, thank you very much for the updates from Murtala International Airport. We will keep a tab on you as developments unfold. Well, now we have Olabode Osenie online to bring his thoughts on the discussions we were having on the show. Olabode, good to have you right now. But first off, in a speech that Theresa made in Cape Town, she pledged about £4 billion in support for African economies to create jobs for young people. How do you see this?
Thank you very much for having me, Esther. It is a good gesture. And we must also understand that in any relationship, it cannot be one-sided. Both parties must have something they can bring to the table. Now, it's not good enough if Nigeria is giving so much and we are unable to give back something to them. Now, as it is, in terms of technology, Great Britain has advanced many light years ahead of us. We are still struggling, and we are still struggling in the area of basic things, like we are yet to have a steady flow of energy. We do not have good rules to connect our farmers, our products, and also some other allied businesses. Now, these are little things that maybe we will have to say, give specifications to what we want from Great Britain. They might have to probably come back and start to help us. We can put that in the specifics of what we will need from Great Britain, because it looks to me like we are still having problems to get certain things done. Here in UK, there are also poverty here. The poverty is just being managed in such a way that is a level-headed manner. To continue with your guests in the studio, I want to bring down a little bit to the ordinary people what they should understand from the lengthy analysis is done. I want to say that if Nigeria does not specify what Nigeria wants from this kind of a relationship, it's going to be in another 2 or 3 years. They're giving us so much money, we have not used it. Now, let me quickly touch about the poverty in Nigeria. Let's stay within Nigeria. No wonder, because here we have policies. Our own policies does not give an average Nigerian a kind of encouragement to come out of poverty. We do not have enough resources. We have the resources, but being permanently misused to create opportunities, employment, education. All these are things we are lacking. There's no way we can match up to Great Britain. It's just like you're asking an amateur boxer to come and fight Orlando Holyfield. He will run away from the ring. Hollander will just kick him out. Nigeria need to do more by knowing exactly what they want. Like I said, that amount of money will be given to us, corruption will just swallow it, And what happens in another 4, 5, 10 years, down the road, Nigeria is still getting poorer and poorer, and some people are going to share the money, are going to get richer and richer. These are little things I think will interest ordinary person on the road.
Right.
Because on the street of Lagos, if you ask them, what do you see from the visit of Prime Minister of UK? They say, oh, I want her to help us, so I want the UK to help us. But the help will never get to these people. And those are the things we need to be talking about.
Right. Now, talking about help, you know, the United States, that's May, Theresa May, believes that the UK will overtake the United States to become the G7's biggest investor in Africa by 2022. Now, talking about help, do you think the UK has all that Africa needs to provide that help that we so desire?
I don't think so. I mean, that's, for me, that's going to be a kind of a wishful thinking. Because when you look at the amount of the massive investment by the Chinese, and don't forget also, as time goes on, there are going to be more European countries. You see, Africa, or let's stay with Nigeria, is like a virgin. It's a virgin land. There's a huge amount of resources there that the native, we don't not even start to touch. So for these people, and don't forget, this is the time, like I said, we should not be asking for too much money. We should be asking for certain things that will develop, that will make certain requisites or parameters that will enhance development of a country. That's what should be focused on, because like I said, we don't have energy, we don't have roads, there's so many things we are lacking. So at the end of the day, it's going to be very difficult. Do you understand me? So really and honestly, I think the best thing to do is to ask Great Britain to give us some technical support. You understand me? Some technical support, not the money. Because you and I know the money will be gotten and then it will be stolen.
Right.
And that is the truth.
Now, Adeniyi, from his own point of view, he feels that, you know, the UK has little to offer, part of your position you had earlier on. But it is a good light in a way, because it opens Africa to the rest of the world. They get to see the opportunities Africa has for the other side of the divide. But then again, one would say, is it not another style of imperialism?
Well, that's the reason we have to really strengthen our position. And I must say that in all of the spirit of patriotism that I have, I cannot subtract the fact from what I'm saying this evening. Let me look at the place Theresa May visited, the victims of slavery in Badagry. In the history of the world, Badagry hold a significant position and place. The particular place where the slaves get taken away from still remains there. I still traveled there last week, and I can tell you authoritatively, Esther, that the roads are terrible. That is supposed to be the network into other West African countries that this government has not given proper attention to. If you're talking about road rehabilitation, before you have full rehabilitation of roads or particular infrastructure, you actually manage those roads. And that is where you have little potholes fixed before it becomes gorges that destroy people's lives. That's one. So that simply means when Theresa May is thinking that in what way can we invest in anthropology and maybe archaeology in this country, the connection of infrastructure to Badagry has made it a minus, and that is for the records, and I stand here not to be corrected on this. It's a fact of the matter. Now, moving further here, let me tell you that the British government, ditto every country in the West, does what is called strategic positional investment. The British people, since Buhari administration started its anti-corruption campaign, has not released up to £5 million. But when Theresa May is to come into the country, they release £70 million. That is strategic political or strategic positional relationship.
Right.
And that is another thing that many of us are not reading. And I want to use this opportunity, and I'm doing it free, for the advisors of the president, that they should understand the dynamics of the bilateral positionings of countries of the West.
So in other words, we should read between the lines?
They have to do that. Let me also tell you this. The reason why Britain, apart from the fact that by 2019, she will no longer be part of the European Union, is the fact that when the United States of America and some other countries of the West believe that Nigeria was done for and corruption has become a very endemic problem, The Chinese people saw opportunity and they waded in. And the point remains that they cannot match, as I speak here,
China.
the investment of China.
Right.
Last week, the Minister of Health, Professor Isaac Adeniyi, was on Chinese global.
All right, let's hold your thought
All
now.
right,
We have
please.
live pictures already from Murtala Muhammad International Airport. Is there you see pictures of Theresa May with Lagos State Governor Akinwumi Ambode. Well, they just had some discussions earlier. Let's have a feel of what's about to happen.
Business community here. We want to see increased trade between Nigeria and the UK, increased investment, bringing jobs here to Nigeria, jobs in the UK, being good for both countries. And I've had an excellent time here, and I'm very pleased to have been able to visit. And thank you, Governor, for welcoming me. Thank you.
Hello, please. Hello, please.
Theresa May, Prime Minister of Britain, speaking a while ago on her visit to Lagos and, of course, Nigeria. We'll bring you more of that briefing later on in the bulletin, or in our bulletin at the top of the hour. So yes, we were discussing this matter, Adeniyi Kunnu, before now with regards to how much imperialism it has for the continent. But let's quickly get this question also to Otunba. What's your position on the question I asked earlier with regards to the imperialistic belief, perhaps, that this visit might have on the continent?
Yeah. For me, again, it is a case of do we know the amount of the damage, the harm we did to ourselves 500 years ago? Have we learned any lesson? Are we making any progress? Because at the end of the day, it is convenient for the Europeans or the Americans who took advantage of we selling ourselves to them as slaves. They use the slave business to build their own country all over Europe and America. So for her to go to Badagry, to wanting to see where slave business started and all that kind of thing, doesn't say much to me.
Right.
Because he's gone there and live within a short period of time.
All right, Olabode, let me hold your thought right now. We need to get across to our correspondent, Theo, to give us up to date on what just happened a while ago. Theo, the floor is all yours now. Tell us what was said just a while ago by the Prime Minister of Britain.
All right, Theresa May was just here with the governor. She's going out of Lagos to Kenya. What she mentioned about doing business with Nigeria, yes, like what we said earlier, the same thing she said, that Britain is ready to do business and the businesses are going to bring more jobs, and they are committed to doing a lot of business to Nigeria and having every other relationship with Nigeria. That was what she mentioned in her statement there.
Well, we have that update already from our correspondent live for us from Murtala International Airport. Thank you for the update. Well, let's wrap up the show right now. From what he's just said, it's all about relations, making good deals for the continent and Nigeria and Africa at large. Where do we take it from here now?
Well, it's important for British government to understand at the moment that we don't need cash, we need infrastructure. And I want to mention what Professor Isaac Adeniyi said on China Global Television last week. He mentioned that we do not need hard infrastructure now, we need soft infrastructure from China. By implication, they should channel all of those monies rather than give it to us in the form of grants or aid into infrastructure, and we can have enough of our own expertise built here so that we can do things ourselves. It has positives, but whilst we really must know that the positives are there, it won't be taken advantage of if we're not properly prepared.
Right,
it's
that's
important.
a good point to leave it. Thank you very much, Adeniyi Kunnu, researcher and policy analyst. We appreciate your contribution
Thank you for having
on
me.
Africa Today. And Olabode Osenie, political analyst and media consultant. Thank you for your thoughts as well, joining me earlier on Skype.
Thank you very much for having me.
Well, let's take a moment and think about this. Theresa May visits South Africa, Kenya and Nigeria, while Angela Merkel takes a trip to Senegal, Ghana and Nigeria, following Emmanuel Macron's recent visit to the continent, leaving no one in doubt of the increasingly competitive scramble for Africa. While the solution to the continent's problem largely lies within, there is no better time than now for Africa to trade itself out of poverty with partnerships that will bring about sustainable development and prosperity. And that is our package for tonight. But don't forget to join the conversation as usual on Twitter at TVC News NG and follow me for updates around Africa at Esther TVC News. Until the next one again, I am Esther Mopariola, and always remember, Africa can only get better.